Captain Taywin stood in front of the large star map in his quarters. The holographic display showed thousands of systems in glowing colors: blue for explored space, green for friendly territories, red for danger zones. And then there was the gray area. A massive section of space marked simply as human territory. He had been staring at it for an hour now. His orders were clear but unusual. 3 survey probes had gone missing near the human border. All 3 stopped sending signals exactly 7 light minutes inside that gray zone. His mission was to find out why. Taywin was a Vrexian, a species known for their military discipline and exploration skills. His people had been traveling the stars for over 6,000 years. They had seen wars, made peace with hostile aliens, and mapped dangerous regions of space. But human territory was different. Everyone knew about it. No one talked about it. The door chimed. His science officer, Bayul, entered without waiting for permission. She was young for her rank, brilliant, and usually excited about everything. Today she looked troubled. "Captain, I found something in the old records," she said, placing a data pad on his desk. "I was looking into previous expeditions near human space." And Taywin picked up the pad. In the last 200 years, 847 ships, probes, and expeditions entered human territory. Not one came back. Not one sent a message after crossing the border. There are no battle reports, no debris fields, no distress calls. Just silence. Taywin felt a chill run down his spine. 847 ships. That was not a small number. Why didn't anyone investigate this before? Bayul shrugged. The Galactic Council classified all of it. Each incident was listed as a technical failure or navigational error. But when you put them all together, the pattern is clear. Nothing that goes into human space comes back. "Maybe we should reconsider this mission," Taywin said quietly. "With respect, Captain, that makes me want to go even more. What are the humans hiding? Why is everyone so afraid?" Taywin smiled despite his concerns. That was Bayul, always curious, always brave, sometimes too brave. 2 days later, their ship, the Endless Dawn, arrived at Border Station Exodus. The station floated at the edge of Council space, right where the maps turned gray. It was a small outpost, mostly automated, with a skeleton crew of diplomats and observers. A human woman met them at the docking bay. She was small compared to the Vrexian crew, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a simple diplomatic uniform with no weapons visible. "Captain Taywin, welcome to Exodus Station. I am Hana Go, diplomatic liaison for human territory. I understand you're here about the missing probes." Her voice was pleasant, her smile warm, but something about her made Taywin uneasy. Maybe it was how still she stood, or how she seemed to be studying them even as she welcomed them. "Yes," Taywin replied. "We need to enter your territory to search for them." "I see." Hana's smile didn't change. "I must remind you of the Council Treaty, Article 47, Section 12. No non-human vessels may enter human territory without explicit invitation from Earth government. The missing probes were likely destroyed by spatial anomalies. The border region has unusual gravitational fields. 3 probes, all failing at the exact same distance inside your space," Bayul spoke up. "That's not a coincidence." Hana turned her attention to the science officer. "You're right. It's not a coincidence. It's a warning. Your probes crossed into protected space. We disabled them and logged the violations. If you'd like, I can arrange for their return, along with all collected data." "You disabled military-grade survey probes?" Taywin was surprised. Those probes had advanced shielding and defense systems. "We prefer not to destroy things unnecessarily," Hana said. "But we take our borders seriously. I strongly suggest you accept the returned probes and consider your mission complete." The young navigator, Doyun, spoke up for the first time. "Why are you so secretive? What are you hiding in there?" Something flickered across Hana's face. Sadness, maybe, or pity. "We're not hiding anything, Navigator. We're protecting something. There's a difference." That night, The crew of the Endless Dawn gathered in the ship's common room. Taewon had called a meeting to discuss their options: return home with the probes and file a report, or proceed into human territory and find out the truth. "I say we go," Buell said immediately. "We came all this way. We can't turn back now." "It's dangerous," Taewon warned. "You saw the records. No one comes back." "Maybe they found something worth staying for," Doyen suggested. "Or maybe they're all dead. Either way, we need to know." The crew voted. It was unanimous. They would proceed. Taewon informed Liaison Go of their decision the next morning. She didn't seem surprised. She simply nodded and wished them safe travels. But as they prepared to depart, she sent a private message to Taewon's personal comm. "Captain, I want you to understand something. The humans are not your enemy, they never have been. But you're about to learn why the Galactic Council fears them. It's not because of weapons or military power. It's because of what they represent. What they offer. Be prepared for that." The message ended before he could reply. The Endless Dawn crossed the border at 800 hours. The transition was smooth. No alarms, no weapons locks, nothing unusual on the sensors. Just empty space that looked like any other region they had explored. Then, exactly 3.7 light minutes inside human territory, their communications went dead. Not broken or jammed, simply silent. They could still talk to each other on the ship, but all external signals stopped working. Bayul worked frantically at her station. "It's not a malfunction. Something is blocking our transmissions very precisely, very deliberately." "Can you break through it?" Taewon asked. "I don't think so. This is technology I've never seen before. It's like the signal just stops existing once it leaves our ship." Doyen called out from navigation. "Captain, we have a contact. A ship just appeared on sensors." "Battle stations," Taewon ordered immediately. "Wait," Buell said, studying her screen. "It's not moving toward us. It's just sitting there, like it's watching." The human ship was unlike anything in their database. Sleek, dark, and completely silent. It maintained a distance of exactly 10 kilometers, matching their speed and course perfectly. Then a message came through their communication system. Not radio or standard transmission. It appeared directly on their main screen, text in perfect galactic standard. "You have entered human territory without authorization. You have two options. Follow us to the nearest station for formal contact, or turn back now and return home safely. Choose." Taewon looked at his crew. They had come too far to turn back now. "We follow them." The human ship immediately changed course, and the Endless Dawn followed. As they traveled deeper into human territory, Taewon couldn't shake the feeling that they had just made the most important decision of their lives. For better or worse, there was no going back now. The Endless Dawn followed the human ship through empty space for 3 hours. During that time, nobody spoke much. The crew watched their sensors carefully, trying to understand what they were seeing. The human ship moved in ways that shouldn't be possible. It changed direction without slowing down. It accelerated without visible engine burns. When Buell tried to scan it, her instruments gave strange readings that made no sense. "It's like the ship doesn't follow normal physics," she said, frustration clear in her voice. "Or maybe it's using physics we don't understand yet. How far ahead are humans compared to us?" Toyin asked quietly. "I don't know," Bayul admitted. "Maybe they're not ahead. Maybe they just went in a different direction with their technology." Taewon was more concerned about what they weren't seeing. His sensors showed dozens of star systems nearby. Many had planets with cities, orbital stations, and massive infrastructure. Energy signatures suggested billions of people living there. But when they tried to communicate, there was no response. Complete silence. "It's like they're ignoring us," Doyen said. "We're flying through their space and they don't even care." "Oh, they care," Taewon replied, pointing at his tactical display. "Look closely. There are ships all around us, keeping their distance but always watching. We're not being ignored. We're being escorted." It was true. Once he pointed it out, the crew could see them. Human ships appearing briefly on sensors before disappearing again. Never threatening, never approaching, but always present, like silent guards. "This is unsettling," Bayul said. "Why won't they talk to us?" "Maybe they don't need to," Taewon answered. "They know where we're going. They know why we're here. Words might not be necessary. After 5 hours of travel, Doyun noticed something disturbing. "Captain, we have a problem with our chronometers." "What kind of problem?" "According to the ship's clock, we've been traveling for 5 hours. But according to my personal timepiece, it's been 8 hours, and the computer logs show gaps in the recordings." Bile checked her own devices. "He's right. We're missing 3 hours. No, wait. 3 hours and 17 minutes. None of us remember it. The ship's systems logged the time passing, but there's no record of what happened during those hours." A cold feeling spread through the crew. Missing time was never a good sign. It meant something had happened to them, something they couldn't remember. "Medical scans, everyone," Taewon ordered. "Check for drugs, memory manipulation, anything unusual." The scans came back clean. Whatever caused the time gap, it left no trace in their bodies or brains. They were perfectly healthy. They just couldn't remember 3 hours of their journey. "I want to go home," Doyen said suddenly. The young navigator looked pale and scared. "This was a mistake. We should turn back." "We can't," Buell said, though she didn't sound happy about it. "Look at the navigation plot. We've traveled too far. Even if we turn back now, we'll run out of fuel before we reach the border. The human ship led us on a route that makes return impossible without refueling." "That can't be an accident," Taewon said. "They planned this. From the moment we crossed the border, we were committed to seeing this through." "So we're prisoners?" Doyen asked. "No," Taewon said firmly. "We chose to come here. We chose to follow their ship. This is the consequence of our choice. Now we have to live with it." 2 hours later, they found one of the missing probes. It was orbiting a small moon in an empty system. The probe was intact, fully functional, and still transmitting. But it was only transmitting locally. The signal didn't reach beyond a few hundred kilometers. Bile accessed the probe's databanks. Most of the information had been wiped clean. Only one message remained, repeating endlessly in thousands of different languages. "You are seen. You are counted. You are remembered." "What does that mean?" Doyen whispered. "It means they know we're here," Taewon said. "They knew the moment we crossed the border. They've been tracking us this whole time, and they want us to know it. But why?" Buell asked. "Why not just destroy the probes? Why leave this message?" "Because humans don't want to be our enemies," Taewon realized. "They're sending a message. They see us. They're watching us. They remember every probe, every ship that enters their space. But they're not attacking. They're just making sure we know they're aware." The human escort ship suddenly changed course again, and the endless dawn followed. This time they were heading toward a planet. A beautiful blue and green world with white clouds and vast oceans. Cities covered the continents, connected by networks of light visible even from orbit. "That's Haven's Rest," Bile said, checking the star charts. One of the first human colonies outside Earth. Population around 4 billion. As they entered orbit, their communication system activated. A human face appeared on the main screen. He was older, with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple military uniform with no visible rank insignia. "Endless Dawn, I am Commander Hyok Shin of the Haven's Rest Defense Fleet. Welcome to human space. You have completed a journey that 846 others made before you. Like them, you now have a choice to make." "What choice?" Taewon asked. "You can dock at our orbital station for formal diplomatic contact. We will answer your questions, show you what you want to see, and explain why the Galactic Council fears us. After that, you may leave if you wish, or you can turn back now. We will refuel your ship and provide safe escort to the border. No questions asked. No records kept. You will simply return home and file whatever report you choose." Taewon looked at his crew. Bile nodded immediately. She wanted answers. Doyen hesitated, but then agreed. They hadn't come this far to turn back at the last moment. "We will dock," Taewon said. Commander Hyok smiled slightly. "Very well. Docking Bay 7 will receive you. Please know that you are safe here. You have always been safe here. The danger was never from us. Then where is it from?" Bile asked. "From the truth," Hyok replied, "and from what you will do once you learn it." The communication ended. The Endless Dawn approached the orbital station slowly. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of Border Station Exodus. Thousands of ships moved around it in organized patterns. Some were human, but others were clearly alien designs, ships from species all across the galaxy. "Those are council ships," Doyen said in shock. "Vrexian, Keltharan, Axion. Ships from dozens of different species." "What are they doing here?" "I think," Taewon said slowly, "we're about to find out why no one ever comes back from human territory." The Endless Dawn docked smoothly. The airlock opened, and Commander Hayek was waiting for them on the other side. Behind him stood a dozen humans in various uniforms. None were armed. None looked threatening. They simply looked patient. "Welcome," Hayek said. "You must have many questions. We will answer all of them. But first, there is something you need to see. Something that will change everything you thought you knew about the galaxy." He gestured down a long corridor. The crew of the Endless Dawn exchanged glances, then followed. Whatever waited for them at the end of that corridor, it was the reason they had come. The reason 846 other expeditions had made the same journey, and the reason none of them ever returned home. Commander Hayek led them through corridors that looked normal at first. Clean white walls, soft lighting, people walking past with purpose but no hurry. The crew expected something dramatic, something that would explain the mystery. Instead, they saw an ordinary space station. Then they reached a large door with words carved into the metal in dozens of languages. In Galactic Standard it read, "Archive of Contact." This building was constructed 200 years ago, Hayek explained as the door opened. When humans first joined the Galactic Council, we built it because we knew others would come. We knew they would cross our borders, and we wanted to be ready. "Ready for what?" Taewon asked. "To remember them," Hayek said simply. The interior took their breath away. It was huge, easily the size of a small city. The walls were lined with displays, each one dedicated to a different expedition: ships, probes, research vessels. Each had its own section with detailed information. Bile walked to the nearest display. It showed a Keltharian exploration ship called the Morning Star. There were images of the crew, personal logs, even small items recovered from the ship. A captain's medal, a navigation officer's lucky charm, a child's drawing. "What happened to them?" she whispered. "Keep walking," Hayek said. "You'll see." They moved deeper into the archive. Taewon recognized ships from his own people's history. Phyrexian military vessels declared lost in training accidents, science ships that vanished during deep space surveys. Even the personal yacht of a wealthy explorer who supposedly died in a navigation error. All of them were here. All of them documented with care and respect. Then Bayul stopped walking. She stood frozen in front of one display, her hand covering her mouth. Taewon and Doyen hurried to her side. The display showed a Phyrexian research vessel called the Starseeker. The ship had vanished 40 years ago with all hands. The crew manifest listed 15 scientists, and there, in the command position, was a familiar face. "That's my grandmother," Bayul said in a broken voice. "Dr. Mirai, no, she died before I was born. The whole family mourned her." "She didn't die," Hayek said gently. Bayul turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. "What? None of them died. That's what I've been trying to tell you. We don't kill intruders. We never have. We offer them a choice. And your grandmother made hers. Where is she?" Bayul demanded. "Teaching xenobiology at Haven's Rest University. She's quite famous in academic circles here. Would you like to meet her?" Bayul couldn't speak. She just nodded, but Taewon grabbed Hayek's arm. "Wait, you're saying all 846 expeditions are here? All those people are alive?" "Not all on this station. They're spread across human territory, living their lives. Some integrated into human society. Others formed their own communities. But yes, they're all alive, all by choice." "I don't understand," Doyen said. "Why would they stay? Why not go home?" "Because," Hayek said, "they discovered something here they couldn't find anywhere else in the galaxy. Something the Galactic Council doesn't allow. Something so valuable that going home became impossible." "What?" Taewon asked. "What could be that important?" Hayek smiled sadly. "Freedom. Real freedom. The kind that doesn't exist anywhere else in known space." He led them out of the archive and toward a transport station. They boarded a small shuttle that took them down to the planet's surface. The city below was beautiful. Towers of glass and metal mixed with green parks, rivers flowing through urban centers. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen. It mixed human design with elements from dozens of alien cultures. The shuttle landed in a district called the Refuge. As they stepped out, the crew saw something impossible. Aliens everywhere, not just one or two species. Dozens, hundreds, all living together in apparent peace. A Keltharan merchant ran a food stall next to a Phyrexian artist's studio. An Axian philosopher taught a class of mixed-species children in an open plaza. Families of different species walked together, talking and laughing. This is where most of the refugees live, Hyuk explained. We call them refugees because that's what they are. People seeking refuge from the Galactic Council's way of life. Refugees? Taewon was confused. The Council provides for everyone. There are no wars, no poverty, no suffering. Why would anyone need refuge? Because, a new voice said, being provided for is not the same as being free. They turned. An elderly Vrexian woman approached them. She was small. Her scales faded with age, but her eyes were sharp and bright. She wore simple clothes and carried a bag full of data pads. Buell made a sound somewhere between a sob and a laugh. Grandmother? Dr. Mirai No dropped her bag and opened her arms. Buell ran to her and they embraced. The old scientist held her granddaughter and cried. I never thought I'd see family again, Mirai said. They told us no one from home would ever come looking, that the council would make sure of it. Why didn't you come back? Byral asked. Why did you let us think you were dead? Because I couldn't, Mirai said. Not after learning the truth. Come, sit with me. I'll explain everything. They found a quiet cafe nearby. Mirai ordered drinks for everyone, insisting on paying with currency the crew didn't recognize. When they were settled, she began her story. When the Star Seeker crossed into human space, we expected to die. We had heard the stories. We knew no one returned. But the humans didn't attack. They escorted us here, just like they did with you. And then they showed us the archive. They showed us all the others who came before. She paused to sip her drink. Then they asked us a question. Do you know what real freedom is? We said yes, of course. The Council provides freedom to all species. Freedom from war, from hunger, from fear. What did they say? Taewon asked. They said that's not freedom. That's management. And then they showed us what freedom really means. Mirai looked at each of them in turn. The Galactic Council controls everything. Not through force or violence. Through systems so old and so normal that we don't even see them as control. Every species has some form of it. Neural conditioning. Genetic programming. Social credit systems. Behavioral modification. We accept it because we've never known anything else. But humans don't have those things, she continued. They refuse them absolutely. Here in human territory, you can think what you want, say what you want, choose your own path. The only rule is don't harm others. That's it. No hidden control, no subtle manipulation, just real, genuine freedom. And you chose to stay for that? Doyen asked, disbelief in his voice. Child, Mirai said gently, once you truly experience freedom, going back to control is impossible. Even if the control is comfortable, even if the control is for your own good. Once you know what it feels like to make your own choices without hidden programming influencing you, you can never unknow it. She looked at Buell with love and sadness. That's why I couldn't return. That's why none of us can. Not because humans won't let us leave. They would help us leave right now if we asked. But because we've seen the cage we used to live in, and we can't go back inside it. The crew sat in silence, trying to process what they had learned. Around them, the city continued its peaceful rhythm. People of dozens of species living together. Free. Finally, Taewon spoke. So the Galactic Council fears humans not because of weapons or military power. They fear them because of ideas. Yes, Mirai said, and they should be afraid. Because once these ideas spread, everything changes. Everything. Over the next 3 days, Commander Hyuk arranged meetings with refugees from across the galaxy. Each one had a story. Each story revealed another layer of the truth that Mirai had spoken about. The first was a Keltheran woman named Jisoo Park. She had been a merchant before crossing into human space. In her culture, everyone was born into a specific role determined by genetic. Engineering, merchants, warriors, scientists, artists, each role was locked into their DNA before birth. I was designed to be a merchant, she explained. To the crew over dinner. My genes were modified to make me good at numbers, at reading people, at negotiation. I was successful. I made my family wealthy, but I was never happy. Why not? Bill asked. Because I wanted to paint. I wanted to create art. But that wasn't my role. My genetics made me feel uncomfortable when I tried. My society said it was wrong for someone of my caste to pursue art. So I buried that desire for 30 years. She smiled and gestured around her small art studio. Here, humans help me understand something. Genetic programming is just another form of control. They have the technology to change it. They removed the blocks my people had placed in my DNA. Now I paint. Every day, and for the first time in my life, I'm truly happy. But don't you miss your family? Doyen asked. Your home? Jisu's smile faded. Every day. But I can't go back. If I returned and told them what I learned, they would call it genetic corruption. They would fix me. Put the blocks back in my mind. Make me a merchant again. I would rather live in exile and be myself than return home and be what others designed me to be. The second meeting was with a Vrexian military officer named Minho Quan. He had been a decorated commander. Before his ship crossed into human space during a border patrol, he sat with them in a quiet park, watching children play. Do you know about loyalty conditioning? He asked Taewon. Of course, Taewon replied. All Vrexian military personnel receive it. It ensures unit cohesion and obedience to command. It does more than that, Minho said quietly. It removes your ability to question orders. Any order, no matter how wrong it might be. I served for 30 years before coming here. In that time, I followed hundreds of orders. I never questioned a single one. Not because I agreed with them, because I literally couldn't question them. He looked at Taewon with haunted eyes. The humans removed my conditioning. It took months of therapy to process what that meant. For the first time in my adult life, I could think freely. I could look back at my career and judge my actions. Some things I'm proud of. Others make me sick. But at least now I can choose. Now I can say no. You're saying the conditioning is wrong? Taewon asked, feeling defensive. He had the same conditioning. Every officer did. I'm saying it takes away your choice, Minho replied. It makes you a tool instead of a person. And the worst part is you don't even know it's happening. You think you're making decisions, but you're not. The conditioning is making them for you. The third meeting shook them even more. An Axian philosopher named Yoonji An had fled her homeworld after questioning council policies. In Axion society, dissent was punished through social credit systems and behavioral modification. Question the wrong policy and you lost access to jobs, housing, education. Persist and you were sent for correction therapy that altered your thinking patterns. I wasn't a criminal, Yoonji explained. I just disagreed with resource allocation policies. I wrote papers suggesting alternative approaches. For that, my social credit dropped to dangerous levels. I was facing mandatory correction, so I ran. But the council needs social credit systems, Doyen argued. How else do you maintain social order across billions of people? Humans don't use them, Yoonji said. And their society functions fine. Better than fine, actually, because people aren't afraid to disagree. They aren't afraid to point out problems. That makes their system stronger, not weaker. She leaned forward. Here's the thing about the Galactic Council. Every major species practices some form of population control. Genetic programming, neural conditioning, social credit, behavioral modification. It's so normal, so universal that most people don't see it as control at all. They think it's just how civilization works. Because it is, Taewon said. Every civilization needs structure. Without these systems, there would be chaos. That's what I used to think too, Yoonji replied. Then I lived in human space for 5 years. No genetic programming, no neural conditioning, no social credit scores, no behavioral modification, just people making their own choices. And you know what? It works. There's no chaos. There's just freedom. That night, the crew gathered in their quarters on the station. They had been given comfortable rooms and told they could leave whenever they wanted. But none of them could sleep. They kept replaying the conversations in their minds. They're wrong, Doyen said. They have to be. The council systems exist for good reasons. They maintain peace across thousands of species, do they? Buell asked quietly. Or do they maintain control? There's a difference. What are you saying? Taewon asked. I'm saying maybe my grandmother was right. Maybe we've been living in a cage so big we never saw the bars. That's dangerous thinking, Doyen warned. If we go home talking like that, they'll send us for behavioral correction. Exactly, Buell said. Doesn't that prove the point? We can't even talk about freedom without being threatened with mental modification. Is that really peace? Or is it just enforced compliance? The room fell silent. They all knew she was right. They had all had similar thoughts over the years. Little moments of doubt. Questions they pushed away. Ideas they didn't examine too closely because examining them felt dangerous. The next morning, Commander Hayok visited them. He carried data pads with him. These contain everything we've learned about council control systems. Genetic programming protocols, neural conditioning methods, social credit algorithms, behavioral modification procedures, all the ways your civilizations manage their populations. He set the pads on the table. We've also included our research on how to remove or reverse these systems. How to free people from genetic locks. How to undo neural conditioning. How to help people think for themselves again. Why are you showing us this? Tewin asked. Because you asked to see the truth. This is it. The Galactic Council isn't evil. The species that make it up aren't bad people. But they're trapped in systems that were built millions of years ago. Systems that prioritize stability and control over individual freedom. Systems that are so old and so normalized that they've become invisible. Hyok sat down with them. Humans are different. We evolved differently. We fought wars over freedom. We died for the right to choose our own paths. When we finally achieved it, we learned something important. Freedom isn't just a nice idea. It's a fundamental need. Intelligent beings need it to truly thrive, to create, to grow, to be happy. So you want to destroy the council? Doyen asked. No, Hyuk said firmly. We want to change it slowly, carefully, one person at a time. That's why we don't force anyone to stay. That's why we document everyone who comes here. That's why we offer choices instead of demands. He looked at each of them. And now you have a choice. You can return to council space with your memories intact. You can return with selective memory modification of sensitive information. Or you can stay and help us build something better, something truly free. What happens if we go back with full memories? Tewin asked. Honestly, you'll probably be flagged for behavioral correction. The ideas you've been exposed to are considered dangerous by council standards. But some people choose that risk anyway. They go back as what we call witnesses. They plant seeds of change. They ask questions. They help others see the cage they live in. It's dangerous, Hyuk continued. Many witnesses are caught and corrected. Their memories altered. Their thoughts changed. But some succeed. Some manage to inspire others, to create small pockets of free thinking, to start the long process of change. He stood. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. Talk among yourselves. Think carefully. Whatever you choose, we'll support you. That's what freedom means. After he left, the crew looked at each other. Each of them knew that whatever they decided would change their lives forever. There was no going back to who they were before crossing that border. They had seen too much, learned too much. The question now was what they would do with that knowledge. The night before their decision felt endless. Each crew member retreated to their own thoughts, weighing futures that had seemed clear just days ago but now appeared impossibly complicated. Doyen stood at the observation window in his quarters, staring at the planet below. He thought about his family back home, his parents, his younger sister who looked up to him, his friends from the academy. All the people who mattered to him existed in council space. How could he abandon them? But then he remembered what Minho had said about loyalty conditioning. Was his attachment to family real? Or was it programming designed to keep him loyal to his society? The thought made him feel sick. He wanted to believe his love for his family was genuine. But how could he know for sure? In the next room, Buell sat with her grandmother. They had spent hours talking about the 40 years they had missed. The family events. The accomplishments. The losses. Mirai cried when she learned her husband had died 10 years ago. Phil cried knowing her grandmother had missed so much of her life. What should I do? Biel asked finally. If I stay, my siblings will mourn me like we mourned you. If I go back, I have to live knowing the truth about our society and pretending I don't. Mirai took her granddaughter's hands. I can't make that choice for you. That's the whole point of freedom. You have to decide what matters most, family connection or truth. There's no wrong answer. Only consequences you have to accept. Captain Tewin paced in his quarters. His entire career had been built on service to the Vrexian military. He had sworn oaths, made promises, given 30 years of his life to protect his people, and now he was being told that service was based on neural conditioning, that his loyalty wasn't entirely his own. Part of him wanted to reject everything the humans said, to return home and pretend this journey never happened. But another part of him, a part he had always tried to ignore, whispered that he had always felt something was wrong, that his unwavering obedience to orders had never quite felt right. Late in the night, someone knocked on his door. It was Hana Go, the diplomatic liaison from Border Station Exodus. She had followed them to Haven's Rest. May I come in? She asked. Tewin nodded, and she entered. She sat down without being invited, something that would have seemed rude a week ago but now just seemed honest. Commander Hyok asked me to tell you about a third option, she said. One he doesn't usually mention because it's the most dangerous. What option? Become a witness with full knowledge of what that means. Return to council space with all your memories. Live your normal life, but slowly, carefully plant seeds of change. Ask questions that make people think. Share ideas that challenge the system. Help others see what you've seen. You said it's dangerous, Taewon noted. Very. Most witnesses are caught within 5 years. They're sent for behavioral correction. Their memories are altered. Sometimes they're imprisoned. A few have been disappeared entirely. The council doesn't tolerate threats to stability. Then why would anyone choose it? Hana smiled sadly. Because some people believe freedom is worth dying for. Because they can't live with themselves knowing the truth and doing nothing. Because they hope that even if they fail, they might inspire just one person to question, just one person to think differently. And maybe that person will inspire another, and another. Until eventually things change, she stood to leave. I was born in council space, traded to humans as part of a diplomatic exchange when I was 7. I grew up in both worlds. When I was old enough, I chose to become a witness. I work at the border, helping others understand what I learned. It's dangerous work, but it's important work. Think about it. At dawn, the crew met in a conference room. Commander Hyuk waited with them. Each person had to announce their choice. Doyen spoke first. His voice shook slightly, but his words were clear. I'm going back, with full memories. I need to see my family again. I need to tell them what I learned, even if it's dangerous. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they won't, but I have to try. Hyuk nodded. We'll prepare your ship and provide you with guidance on how to share information safely. Remember, patience is key. Plant seeds. Don't try to harvest them yourself. Bile went next. She looked at her grandmother before speaking. I'm staying. At least for now. I want to learn everything I can about xenobiology without council restrictions. I want time with my grandmother. Maybe someday I'll go back. But not yet. Mireille squeezed her hand. There were tears in the old scientist's eyes, but they were tears of joy. Finally, Taewon spoke. I'm going back. As a witness. I'll return to my command. I'll file a report about technical malfunctions and spatial anomalies. And then I'll do what Hana does. I'll ask questions. I'll make people think. I'll look for others who might be ready to hear the truth. It's a hard path, Hyuk warned. The loneliest path. You'll have to pretend to be someone you're not. You'll have to watch people live in cages and not be able to help most of them. You'll make progress in years and decades, not days and months. I know, Taewon said, but someone has to do it. And I think I can. My military position gives me access to young officers. People who still question things. People who might listen. Over the next 2 days, the humans prepared the Endless Dawn for departure. They refueled the ship and repaired minor damage. They provided Taewon and Doyen with encrypted communication devices that could reach human space if they ever needed help. They gave them documentation to support their cover story. Most importantly, they spent hours teaching them how to be witnesses, how to ask questions without seeming suspicious, how to share ideas without triggering alarms, how to identify others who might be ready to listen, how to survive in a society that would destroy them if it knew what they were thinking. The morning of departure, Biol hugged her crewmates goodbye. Be safe, both of you, and if you ever need to come back, we'll be here. Take care of your grandmother, Taewon said. Learn everything you can. Someday that knowledge might save people. The Endless Dawn left Haven's Rest with a human escort. They traveled back to the border in silence, each person lost in their own thoughts. When they reached the boundary between human space and council territory, the escort ship sent a final message. Remember what you learned. Remember what you saw. And remember that you always have a home here if you need one. Good luck. The Endless Dawn crossed back into council space. Their communications immediately came back online. Dozens of messages flooded in, asking about their status, demanding reports, expressing concern about their long silence. Taewon began composing his official report. Technical difficulties, spatial anomalies, equipment failures. All lies but necessary ones. He sent the report and began the journey home. Weeks later, Doyen reunited with his family. They cried and hugged him, so relieved to have him back safely. He told them the official story about equipment failures. But later, when he was alone with his younger sister, he said something else. What if, he said carefully. The Council doesn't always tell us the complete truth. What if there are things they don't want us to know? Would you want to know anyway? His sister looked at him strangely. That's a dangerous question. I know, he said. But answer it anyway. She thought for a long moment. Then quietly, yes, I would want to know. Doyen smiled. It was a start. On Haven's Rest, Biol worked in a laboratory with her grandmother. They were researching methods to reverse neural conditioning safely. The work was slow and difficult but promising. If they succeeded, they could eventually free billions of people from mental programming they didn't even know they had. Back in Council space, Captain Taewon returned to his duties. He submitted his reports, attended meetings, and commanded his ship exactly as before. But at night he met quietly with young officers. The ones who still asked questions, the ones who seemed uncomfortable with blind obedience. He told them stories about ships that vanished into human space. He described the silence that followed. He watched their reactions carefully, looking for signs of curiosity, looking for the spark that said they wanted to know more. Most dismissed his stories, but a few listened. A few asked questions, and to those few, he said something that changed everything. What if the reason no one returns from human space isn't because they're dead? What if it's because they found something worth staying for? Years would pass, decades maybe. The change would be slow, invisible to most, but it would happen. One question at a time, one person at a time. One seed of doubt planted in fertile ground, because that's how freedom spreads. Not through force or violence. Not through dramatic revolution, but through ideas, through people willing to risk everything to share a simple truth. The Galactic Council had feared humans for 200 years. They were right to be afraid, but not because of weapons or military power. They feared humans because humans offered something impossible to resist once experienced, the chance to be truly free. And that, more than any weapon ever created, had the power to change the galaxy forever. The end.